From the most trusted names in local news, KDPG Sunday Edition.
Good morning and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm Ken Rice. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. Pretty good advice from a Pennsylvanian named Benjamin Franklin. Today, providing the funding for higher education in Pennsylvania and across the nation has become a real challenge. Pennsylvania is one of the top 3 most expensive markets. This morning, in this season when college students are graduating, younger students and their families may wonder, is a college education becoming out of reach? And what impact could that have on our future workforce and our local economy? In a few minutes, we'll hear from State Senator Lindsey Williams, who serves on the Education Committee. But right now, we welcome Dr. Lindsay Page, Associate Professor of Research Methodology at the University of Pittsburgh School of Education and an expert on the cost and financing of higher education. Also with us, Salim Gabriel, Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Promise, which provides scholarships to qualified students in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. Joe Smido, editorial writer for the Post-Gazette, joins me. Joe, nice to have you along, as always, and thanks to both of you. Dr. Page, let me start with you. Is the United States an outlier? When you look at how nations around the world and students in those countries get a higher education, is our system where, you know, some students are paying $40,000 for a degree at Pitt per year, some students are paying $75,000 per year for a degree at CMU, and some students are racking up incredible amounts of debt. Are we an outlier, or is that happening in other countries?
I would say that the United States is an outlier compared to countries like Germany, where students get to go to university basically for free, supported by the state. Switzerland, the same thing. Many other countries, the same thing. In a way, I feel like we're starting to become an outlier even compared to ourselves. Higher education used to be affordable in the United States.
So that's a great point. Why is tuition, why are college expenses going up so much faster than the rate of inflation?
Part of the reason is what we'll discuss, I think, with Senator Williams. States used to make a strong investment in their higher education systems, and what's happening over time is that states are drawing back their investment in higher education on a per-student level and passing on more of the cost of higher education to students and families. So higher education has never been an inexpensive enterprise, but we're really shifting who we're asking to pay the price.
And how is it that Pennsylvania has wound up one of the top 3 most expensive markets to get higher education?
That's a very good question. I would guess that it's because Pennsylvania has been particularly dramatic in making this shift of passing expenses on to students and families, rather than continuing to invest strongly in higher education with our state tax dollars.
Is this just because states have other financial obligations and so they rob the one side to pay the other, or is it just a lack of commitment for some other reason?
It's probably a combination of those things, but whatever combination it is, it's very short-sighted. States should really be thinking about investing strongly in the future of their economy, and that's going to be heavily dependent on having an educated workforce. By educated workforce, I'm not saying everybody is getting a 4-year bachelor's degree. We really want to think about certificate and associate's degree programs as well as bachelor's degree programs to have a very diversified workforce.
So, Salim, it was with an awareness of this increasing burden on families of paying for college education that the Pittsburgh Promise was founded. It was announced back in 2006. Give me the very quick history of what it was, what you had to work with at the founding, where we are today, how many students have gone through it.
Sure. So the idea was announced in December 2006 by our then Superintendent Mark Roosevelt and then Mayor Luke Ravenstahl. But there weren't 2 nickels to rub together at that time. Early on in 2007, Superintendent Roosevelt put together a committee of folks to help design the program, put together the financial model, and begin fundraising. And then the Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers graciously put the first investment in the Promise, and that was $10,000 from the PFT. And after a year worth of work and planning and financial modeling, UPMC and their CEO, Jeff Romoff, announced this most remarkable investment. In fact, the 2nd largest private investment in public education in the history of the country, second only to the Gates Foundation investment in the New York public school system. And they announced a $100 million commitment to the Promise, which was to leverage a fundraising campaign to raise another $150 million and get us to the $250 million goal.
So What is the status today? What grade point average does a student in a city high school have to get a scholarship, and how much money is available?
So we have raised so far with the UPMC 100 a total of $206 million. And we have sent 8,800 kids to college on a scholarship. And in order to be eligible for one of those scholarships, you have to have a minimum GPA of 2.5 and school attendance of at least 90% of the time. Now, we do have a second chance scholarship for kids who fall below 2.5, but not below 2.0. Those kids for whom the light bulb came on late, like in my own case. And we say to them, we will send you to the community college for 1 year on a scholarship, keep your grades up, and then in the second year, you can go anywhere in the system.
Okay, so a scholarship doesn't mean you're going to cover everything.
It's a limited amount of money. We give a maximum of $5,000 per year per kid, so $20,000 over 4 years. Now, the noteworthy thing is that 85% of the kids who are getting a Promise Scholarship are also getting other need-based aid from the federal government and the state government. In other words, they're low-income kids. So the maximum Pell Grant, for example, is $6,000. The maximum state grant is $4,000. So you take that $10,000 plus our $5,000, then a kid is pretty close to striking distance for paying fully for their college education.
Well, one of the Promise's goals was always to sort of contribute to the economy, to keep those kids in Pennsylvania, in the Pennsylvania workforce when they completed their college studies. Is that happening?
Yeah, so that's actually one reason why we limit where our money can go to Pennsylvania schools. So any school in Pennsylvania, 4-year, 2-year, trade, technical, public, private, if it's accredited and eligible for Pell Grant, it's also eligible for Promise funding. So of the 8,800 kids who have gone to college, about 3,000 have graduated, and more than 2,000 of them are now working in the Pittsburgh market and for many of the companies that support the Promise. Of course, thousands of kids are still enrolled and working on their degree.
And if I can add to that, if that's okay,
Sure.
With colleagues at the University of Pittsburgh, we've been doing work to really ask these causal questions. What's the impact of getting students to college and keeping them in the state? And we find that the Promise is having a positive effect on college enrollment for graduates from the Pittsburgh Public Schools, and the effect on enrollment in college in Pennsylvania is even larger. And so that means that not only are we helping new students get to college, well, you're helping new students get to college, but the Promise is also attracting more students to stay in state who otherwise would have gone out of state for their higher education.
May I say one thing about your earlier conversation? You know, the fact that our state is under supporting the cost of higher education is consequential. So right now, it's cheaper for a Pennsylvania kid to pay out-of-state tuition at Ohio State than it is to pay in-state tuition at Penn State. And for Western Pennsylvania kids, the two universities are equidistant from where they live, which is why Ohio State is right now very deliberately promoting enrollment among Western Pennsylvania kids.
Say that again. You can send your child to Ohio State from Pennsylvania for less money than paying in-state
at Penn State.
At Penn State.
So, and Ohio State
is Ohio funding Ohio State at much greater rates than Pennsylvania's funding Penn State and other state schools?
The answer is yes.
It's that simple. There are states that are robustly funding their state schools.
And then when you can go less expensively to a school that is just as far away from where you live in Pittsburgh or as close to where you live in Pittsburgh, Ohio State knows this, and they're promoting that message and that strategy here in our region.
So this is a drag on the Pennsylvania economy.
It absolutely
We're sending
is.
students out of state because they can get a better deal on college. Have you looked at this from an academic perspective, what the impact on a region is when the education opportunities in that region are priced higher than reasonable alternatives?
It's a great question. It's not something that I've looked at directly. It is something we have a goal to do over time, to look at the economic impact of the Pittsburgh Promise in particular. So I'll say that that's work that will be coming in the future, but it's not something that we've done just yet.
Well, the Allegheny Conference on Community Development issued a report a few years ago saying we're going to be short tens of thousands of workers by 2025. That's right. Every kid you lose to Ohio State may not come back to Pennsylvania after his or her studies are done.
Well, it's a good point. And it makes me think of something, Joe. Are you having any luck with the new tech concerns in town? Are Google and Uber contributing to the Pittsburgh Promise? Should they be? Would that help them in the long run?
The answer is they have not yet invested in the Promise, and yes, they should be. And fingers crossed and knees bent and candles lit that they will.
I'm wondering about the profile of the Pittsburgh Promise. It was very high when it was originally announced. Is it still Does everybody know who you are by now? When you go knock on doors or make calls, I mean, has the Pittsburgh Promise permeated the consciousness of the donor community?
There are always people who say to me, "Now, who are you, and what do you do, and what is the Pittsburgh Promise?" So that not everybody reads the paper or watches the news. I think the majority of our region's population at least knows of the phrase, the Pittsburgh Promise, and the brand, the Pittsburgh Promise. Kids who live in the city and go to Pittsburgh Public Schools are quite informed, and their families are quite informed. So this has recalibrated the conversation that's taken place in our K-12 schools, and raising the expectations that that parents and teachers have of kids, and the aspirations that kids have for themselves. So within the city, I think the answer is there's broad knowledge. Outside of the city, less so.
You have a national profile, don't you? I mean, mayors from other cities visit you from time to time to see what you're doing, to see if they might replicate it.
On a regular basis. Yeah, just two weeks ago, the mayor of Toledo was in town, and I think met with you at the Post-Gazette, and then came and met with us at our office.
So obviously there are many factors that influence an urban school district's enrollment, but wasn't one of the goals of the Pittsburgh Promise stabilizing or even increasing enrollment in the city schools? Has that happened?
Yeah, that certainly was and continues to be a priority for us. I wish I could say to you, Ken, that the enrollment trends have reversed and they're growing again, but what I can say to you is that they have stabilized and leveled off. Projections when we launched the Promise were that by 2018, the enrollment of the district would be down to about 18,000 kids. We are still at about 25,000 kids. So it seems like we've leveled off at that place. Now, when you count charter kids who are also public school kids eligible for the Pittsburgh Promise, so we still have about 30,000 kids who are in the system and in the pipeline.
So have you been able to, well, how have your goals changed, right? Because the goals today are different you set out with when you founded the Promise.
Yeah, I think we may have erred when we launched the Promise by doing a little bit too much chest thumping and suggesting that this is going to be the thing that will transform outcomes for the history of the world. We overstated. Now, we didn't overpromise. What we promised we have delivered on, but I think in terms of the trajectory of the region, we overestimated what our ability is. Now we talk with boldness, but with a little bit more humility than early on, about the areas that we can influence and leverage whatever we can to influence, and then the area that we own and control. So if you were to imagine that as a bit of a bell curve with two tails, the two tails are the areas that we influence, namely the quality of public education in the city and the enrollment of the public school system. Then on the other end, making sure that our kids get jobs with the companies that support us, and therefore we bring them back to Pittsburgh for that reason. Then the space in the middle, which is the big part of the hump, and that is raising money and sending kids to college. That we own. That is entirely our lane, and for which we should be held accountable and are held accountable. And the other two are places where we leverage influence.
Dr. Page, before we go to break, you've looked into something called summer melt.
Yes.
And this is the time of year when students are about to be sprung for the summer. What is summer melt? What can parents do about it?
That's right. So when we talk about summer melt, we're really talking about students who graduate from high school with college plans well in place. They've done everything that we've asked them to do. They've done well academically, they've applied for financial aid. They're really, as they're walking across the graduation stage, the whole school system would be saying, yes, this is a student who's going to college. What we see, particularly in urban school systems like our own, lots of students who have that profile at the time of high school graduation aren't actually making the transition successfully to college in the fall. We estimate that when I started that in Boston it was about 1 in 5, 20% of students who were graduating from the Boston public school system weren't successfully making that transition. And we've seen similar rates in cities all across the country. And so, you know, the next obvious question is, well, why is this happening? And what we know is that students and their families have to be doing a lot to successfully make that transition to college. There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of logistics, there's a lot of steps with financial aid where students and their families can really get lost. And it's a period of time where students and families don't traditionally have access to guidance and support to help them navigate those processes. So we find that students can really get lost in that transition.
I guess just being aware of it, the potential for it happening is a good start.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we have to take a break. We'll be back with more of the KDPG Sunday Edition in just a moment.